Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with Varys Wind for the Rewind 2023 tournament here in Golf Clash. The game, you're gonna see a mix here of the Shifang Basin, Sierra Plateau and the East Lake Golf Club for the Rewind tournament here this year. These are all the new courses we have seen during the year in Golf Clash. Before we take a closer look, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that are looking to improve your game even more, join the largest guide community on the market for 2024 premium guides. Scan the QR code here on the screen, or you use the link in the description down below called patreon.com/golfclashtommy. Last but not least, follow the info box on the right hand side to follow along here in this playthrough with the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, and ball and club type. Have in mind though that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there's always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number one. For hole number one of the Shifang Basin, we are going to play a no movement here when we do have tailwind, but also crosswind. 4 topspin, 3 left spin, and we're using our Apocalypse here to make sure that we do have all the power possible. Even the lower level Apox will still reach to the same spot, as here it doesn't open up at max P3 line. Max plus 30 P3 numbers using a 0.8 ball of left curl together with circle drop overpower. You can see we bounce center fairway to the other fairway, and then it rolls to a semi-long putt, where obviously we could play with slightly less topspin and maybe attack the pin a little bit better, but it is a tricky one having to double bounce over that rough, whereof obviously if you clip the rough you're going to end up with a wedge. If you end up with a wedge, you play it EB School plus a 20 and whatever Powerball number you are getting or having. If you do have a headwind, you can still play a similar type of play, but then we do recommend to play with a P4 or P5 ball. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of overpower and it's going to be a very big gamble. For hole number 4, here we do have actually a quite tricky par 3. I would say 4 and 9 are the two holes that stands out of being the trickiest of the 9 holes that we're playing in the Tour Championship. So what I'm looking to do is to use the Goliath. I'm aiming at the very edge of the rough line when I do have a headwind or a crosswind. If I do have a tailwind, I would recommend to aim a little bit further back, otherwise the ball will land over the rough and that will shoot you into the back rough, and that's not what we want to do. A 3 right spin ball or a side spin 3 ball is what we're looking for to use. Mid plus 10 with the Goliath, and then we'll see a perfect ball be very close. Obviously needs wind angle tweaks and such to be absolutely spot on, but a good chance for a drop. If you do want to take a more safer route, you can bounce on the fairway before the green. The problem with that is that you're going to have a very high first bounce, so it's going to be very difficult to dial a shot like that in. Last but not least, you do have a backspin boost option where you can land directly on the green, but it would require a special ball. Number 3, we are starting with our Apocalypse in NMT. And NMT means no move target. We're not going to touch the target until it's time to adjust the rings. 3 right spin and 5.1 topspin. Here we can decide to go either extremely aggressive to the left, trying to get to a short iron, or we can lay up like we're doing here, or we can push the ball even further down left if we want that. I mean, there's many different ways of playing this hole, which is also one of the reasons why I do enjoy playing this hole in tournaments. 1 ball of right curl, max plus 20 P0, and just before circle drop overpower. And here we are then looking to get to somewhere around 350 yards. Second shot is going to leave us a sniper, and here we're gonna do a check to allow ourselves to kind of have some sort of a reference point. So what we're doing here is to go for the rough bump that is just above the bunker, And once we have found that spot, you can see that we are having the ball guideline plenty through the hole. And the reason the ball guideline is plenty through the hole is due to the reasons of pulling down into the bunker. Because if you pull from a higher to a lower point, you will then lose distance. And therefore, you're going to then land further back than where you aim. So to compensate for that, we are then using the ball guideline to go through the hole. Center the ball, hit perfect, and the ball will then clip the rough, roll down onto the green, and dropping nicely for an albatross. What's not shown here on the replay is that I'm starting with a power 4 ball. This to find absolute min line, so make sure to pack your grizzly or a backbone to make sure to find a firm min line. And this is for crosswind, but also for headwind. So 5.5 bar of topspin, and I'm looking to have the ball guideline through the hole. And once I've found that spot with my target at P4 min line, I'm swapping to a navigator ball. You can obviously play with a ball with much more wind resistance if you would prefer that. Adjust here in headwind, I'm using max with no elevation P1 numbers. If we are playing in direct crosswind, we are playing min numbers instead with no elevation. And the reason we are switching like that is to keep the same true elevation, but using the club distance to compensate for the different wind angles. Obviously, if you're playing in tailwind, you can't play exactly the same way if it's a strong tailwind, but as we are starting at P4 min line and swapping to a P1 ball, we will still be able to play sniper. But then the ball guideline needs to be short of hole, and it's going to be the same type of adjustment as we would be doing in crosswind, which is min, no elevation, P1 numbers. I would say this of the par 3s are definitely an extremely good chance for an hole-in-one. Hole number 5, which is also hole number 8 of the Sierra Plateau, we are either playing left or right. It all depends on what type of wind angle it is. I would personally prefer the left side if it is a headwind. If it is a crosswind or tailwind, I would prefer the right side. And the reason for that is that I do believe that the right side, especially with how it's angled there by the green, that it's going to be quite difficult to attack the pin if you're not reaching far enough on the drive. So here playing with a quarterback to find a max stretch position. The quarterback is mainly used as finding a solid reference point and then swapping to a pock and thorn bag. 5.8 top spin, 3 left spin, 0.8 ball of left curl here, max overpower with a slower needle. Second shot is then played with the thorn, and the thorn here can be played in many different ways. We do like to go with some left spin here. This will take us further away from the bunker, and that's always a positive thing when it comes to having a bunker or a rough or water or whatever in play, because now we can then use the left spin, use some backspin, and then we can then give ourselves some margin of error, because now we can still hit great left and we're not going to endanger the bunker. If there wouldn't be any left spin here and going straight at it, it would possibly be the yellow ring or the inner ring that would be by the bunker, and that will then put us in a very awkward position. 20% elevation here using P0 numbers. Again, this is from a guide shot, so this could be played in many different ways. It doesn't have to be that specifically what I mentioned, but I mentioned what's being played in the video. On hole number 3, we are going to put our target at the top of +10, which would reflect using max line with Apocalypse level 4, for an example, or also other drivers that do not have the full power. Using 3 left spin and 5.8 top spin. Again, 5.8 top spin is to give even those of you that do not play with higher level clubs a chance to replicate what I'm trying to show. Adjust max +10 P3. We're going to go full blast with, in this case, I'm using 1.5 ball of left curl, which is a tiny bit too little. It's still fine though, but look how close I am getting to the right side of the rough here. Lands nicely on the fairway, but with the rollout, you see how close we're getting to the right rough, and that's too close for comfort. So we're gonna want to increase the left curl just slightly. So max plus 10 on the drive, 5.8 top spin, 3 left spin, and that's gonna leave us with a Grizzly on the approach. Because I do believe there is value to playing with the Grizzly instead. Instead of playing with a sniper if having to lay up from further down. All right, so now let's take a look at the reference. We're using a reference that is a top white ring pin check, frame check, blue ring now by the bunker and by the wood. The reason I'm doing that type of landing position is to find a landing position that we can replicate, which meaning that we need references. Having to just have a floating landing spot is never really going to be super consistent. So I'd rather have this and then having spins to pin. Adjustment here now, I'm using here we should be adjusting 48% slider with no elevation, P3 numbers. I'm adjusting a little bit too little, 0.1 too little, hence the specifying the 48% slider instead. Now, very unlucky getting a 360 painfully around the hole, but this hole 3 here offers, in my opinion, a very strong chance for an albatross. Hole number 7 is the shortest of the par 4s, and the thing here is that if you do have a tailwind, and I would say that if you have a crosswind as well, you can push to get this ball to go directly onto the green. But when you do have a headwind, we're gonna have to lay up in some way, and that is what I'm doing, using quarterback to start at the max P0 line, using a 3 side spin ball here. You don't have to use a kingmaker, you can use a katana as well if you would like. 1.5 top spin, 3 left spin, and the adjustment is max no elevation. Once adjusted, we are going to apply full curl to the left with circle drop overpower. Or sorry, just before circle drop overpower. Now we want the ball to bounce on the fairway and roll up to be as close to the final rough line. The closer we are, the shorter the wedge will be, and the easier that will be also. So again, if you do have a tailwind or a crosswind, you can attack the pin directly, but in a headwind like that, we're gonna have to lay up and we're gonna have to rely on our wedge to be our best friend in this scenario. Standard EB School here as well, with the EB School plus a 10% elevation, and that's a no spin. I do recommend to play the no spin always. This due to we don't really have room to use the max top spin method here. And last but not least, as always, we're using the power ball number, which is a P3 ball, which is the same as the power on the ball that we are using to play with. Center the ball, hit perfect. I'm gonna let the needle slow a little bit so I can center the ball properly. There we go, and we can bounce on the green, rolls up, dead center for the eagle. For hole number 8, which is also hole number 7 of the Sierra Plateau, we are going to play this shot with a no spin. We are attacking the pin with a rough bump, with the rough that is the closest to the green. You just want to be perfectly clear with that there is so many ways to play this hole. You can use the fairways, you can use the rough further back, and also use a lot of backspin on going directly on the downslope by the green. I mean, there's so many ways of playing this one, but no spin is always lovely because then we don't have to fiddle around with the spins. Max plus 20 P3 numbers here, and as we're then pulling from a higher to a lower point, combined with having headwind, we're gonna have to use overpower or push up to compensate. So here, using circle break overpower as a base, it lands nicely into the rough and drops down, dropping dead center for a hole-in-one. Again, this is a par 3 that can be played in many different ways. This is just an alternative. On hole number 9, if we do have a crosswind or a headwind, we're going to have to lay up, and to lay up to be as close to the first rough line. If we are forced doing that, the eagle is going to be the most likely outcome in the end, where the albatross will be a bonus drop in my opinion, because that shot is going to be difficult to drop from distance. However though, if we do have a tailwind, we can push the drive harder and actually get over the water if we do have at least 6+ bars of topspin, and then the second shot is going to be much more makeable, and it's going to be a much more fun hole to play. Now, it's very important that you get the ball to roll preferably a little bit longer than what I'm having here in the video. We would like to have, if possible, like a 5 to 10 yards longer to be able to play with the sniper. Because if you don't have the distance enough, or let's say that you are a little bit scared of that rough or water, then I would recommend to use like Cataclysm or a big dog to give yourself more distance. But that's going to then make the second shot be much more difficult to drop. Now, on the second shot, position myself with the yellow ring to be by the rough line, ball guide line to be way right of the hole. This because the wind will push the ball right to left. And we're using 10% elevation and then true club distance. This is, once again, going to be a difficult drop, as you could see there on the green also, that the green is not flat, it slopes, and it will then be hard to get a consistent bounce up here, especially from that long distance. Getting closer for an albatross, but again, tailwind of T, this hole is going to be pretty fun to play, where crosswind and headwind is not really going to be that fun. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with Various Wind here for the Rewind 2023 tournament in Golf Clash the game. Join us into 2024 with our ultimate tournament text guides for Expert and Master Division, the best guides on the market. We do offer Checkpoint Challenge and Tour Play guides as well. Scan the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy via the link in the description down below.